the podcast, Happy and Single. I'm your host, Joseph Anderson. You can find me on Instagram at the It's Possible Guy. Today is episode 88, and it is entitled, Go Easy on Yourself. It's funny, guys, this is the fourth time I have tried to record this podcast this week. And all the other stuff just hasn't fit. But I'm hoping this is the one. That's the downside to, not really a downside, but that's the other side of recording an unscripted podcast. If it's not flowing through you, and that for anyone new to this podcast, I often use the word the spirit. And if you're not familiar with that, it's just, you can call it your intuition, your inner voice, your still small voice, whatever works for you. But if I'm not being guided and directed by the spirit, then it just doesn't come. And so, it's funny because I really did and some of these were, the first one was probably 30 minutes. The other one was probably 15 at least. And the last one was even 10 or so, and they just weren't coming. And, and as I sat here thinking about what was meant to be said, I said a prayer and just truly was asking Heavenly Father and say, hey, what is it that I need to share today? And you know what the impression was? That I needed to go get up and eat a yogurt. and I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've only got so much time to do this podcast today. I've got other stuff I have to do. Today's Saturday. I tried Thursday, nothing. And I got a window of opportunity today, but part of me's thinking, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Really? I'm under the gun per se, and you want me to go just sit and eat a yogurt? Well, it's funny. I listened. I'm learning to listen better, and if anyone out there feels that they just aren't listening, listen again to the episode, The Learning Curve of Living a Guided Life. Because I want you to know I'm right there with you. There's plenty of times that I try and I try and I try, and I think I'm listening. I think I'm following what's meant to be said. But then nothing real comes out about it. And so coming now to the actual part of the episode, well, I guess this is all part of the episode. There's a song by Adele called Easy on Me. Or Go Easy on Me, I think. And I'm gonna read a few of the lyrics in this. And this song, well, a little background. This song was actually written, from what I understand, it was written to her child, as she was getting divorced. Or after she'd been divorced. It was the message to the kid that said, hey, please don't go easy on me. And I think every single one of us, we want not just other people to go easy on us too. It's you're trying so hard and you're trying to figure things out and you're trying to move forward in your life. And some doors open up and others don't. And we fail and we fall. And we just want everybody to go easy on us. I know for me, there's so many times you look back and you say, oh my goodness, if only I could have done this different. If only I could have done this different. If only I could have done this different, my life would be different. If only I would have, made that choice with, that relationship, or I don't know what it is for you guys. But I know one of the things that we do is we are so hard on ourselves. We think we have to do everything perfect. Here I am trying to record a podcast over and over and over, and it was forced. There is a feeling that I'm just even realizing this in this moment. There is a feeling when I'm on the right course in these podcasts. Because something hits me. I feel the spirit, which is just this beautiful, joyful feeling. We're peaceful. So the lyrics of this song say, "Go easy on me, baby. I was still a child. Didn't get the chance to feel the world around me. Had no time to choose what I chose to do. So go easy on me. I had good intentions and the highest hopes. But I know right now that probably doesn't even show. Go easy on me, baby. I was still a child. I didn't get the chance to feel the world around me. I had no time to choose what I chose to do, so go easy on me." It's a really, really cool song. If you haven't ever heard it, I highly recommend listening to it. But every time I listen to this, it just hits me in a different way. And I truthfully don't even remember why I listened to this the other day. I might have been watching another video and it just kind of randomly popped up, or I don't remember exactly. But every time this song comes on, I love it. It just speaks to my soul. It just says, Joseph, like, go easier on yourself. I love the line, "I was still a child." The decisions and choices that you made in your past were done from the best you knew how at the time. If it didn't look right to you, you wouldn't have done it. So go easy on yourself. I'm not saying that you can't make changes. I'm not saying that I can't make changes. I'm just saying it doesn't really serve us to beat ourselves up for the choices that we've made in our past. And the further that we pressure ourselves into doing the right thing, the further away we get. You see, for me, even with this podcast, it was like, oh, Joseph, like, this is it. This is it. This is it. Instead of allowing it to come through. I would have done so much better sitting down and really, really making sure I felt the topics before I did it. So for you, maybe you're thinking about, lost job opportunities or lost relationship potential. You did the best you knew how at the time. And the other thing that strikes me, if you haven't listened to Ophie's podcast from last week, the interview that I did with the musician Ophie was just amazing. And one of the things he said in there is how God has millions of plans of happiness for you. You get to pick. And I loved that idea. And the idea that I've had before that is like, I think he really does know what's best for us. And he guides us towards what's best for us. And what's going to make us the happiest. Like, what is truly, truly going to make you feel joy? If you're sitting around feeling regret, feeling overwhelmed, feeling frustrated, if you've ever seen the circle of, like, the upper half of the sphere is positive, wonderful feelings, and the lower half is like yucky feelings. If you're not feeling the positive half of the sphere, if those feelings, it's not coming from the Spirit. And actually, I pause. I pause right there because that's the Spirit telling you to go forward. The bottom half of that is telling you to stop. So the sooner you stop having the thinking that you're having around you that's really frustrating and scaring you, the moment you can be back to happiness. There's a beautiful quote by a man named Sydney Banks. And he says, when he talks about thought, he says, thought is like the rudder of a ship. It guides you through life. And if you learn to use that rudder properly, you can guide your way through life far better than you ever imagined. You can go from one reality to another. You can find your happiness. And when illusionary sadness comes from memories, you don't try to figure it out. Please don't try to do that. You'll get yourself in trouble. All you have to do is realize that it's thought. The second you realize that it's thought, you are touching the very essence of psychological experience. You're back to the now, you're back to happiness. So don't get caught up on a lot of details. When you're ready, you will find what you're looking for. I don't care who, well, he goes on in this quote to say, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. If you're in the middle of the Sahara Desert and it's time for you to find the answer, the right person will appear in the middle of the desert and let you know. He will say something to you that will trigger something inside you. Guys, we beat ourselves up so often. Like all the time we beat ourselves up. All the time. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And, part of that, like something that my mentor, Michael Neal, said was the following. He said, we are alive, we are aware, and we think. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. If you think you're ever going to get out of this life without making some mistakes, you're wrong. We don't. But oh my goodness, do we ever beat ourselves up? I mean, just a few days ago, I felt like I needed to get back to, a lot of times I'll do certain planning on Sunday, but I felt like I needed to add to that. I felt like I needed to do more. And so I set up some time to do it, and I didn't get very far. Well, I hadn't done that type of planning in a long time. I mean, in a long time, I hadn't been consistent with planning in a while. And part of me, there's parts of it that are helpful and parts of it that aren't so helpful. So, and that's kind of interesting because if something looks absolutely right to us and absolutely true to us, then we'll go forward. But if we don't understand like what to do, or we don't understand why we're being directed in a certain way, we're generally not going to do it. So the reason that you didn't take the actions beforehand that you thought you needed to take, or that you even felt you needed to take, was because it didn't seem 100% true. When you see truth so clearly, you just act differently. If you don't see truth so clearly, you won't act differently. And one of those things is you got to allow it to develop. I'm thinking of like a Polaroid camera. When you take that picture, you have to let it develop. You have to give it time. There is nothing you can do to make a Polaroid camera go faster. Please understand, I have zero expertise in Polaroid, so if I'm wrong, that's okay. It's just one more thing that I have to go easy on myself, right? There is something about that, of just understanding you did the best you knew how at the time. I know a friend that right before they got married, the spirit screamed in their head to say no. And they said yes. And they went through many years of a horrible, horrible marriage. But she still did the best she knew how at the time. At the time, whatever thoughts she had going through her head, she decided to say yes instead of no. I want to point out here that when we're going easy on ourselves, also go easy on other people. For example, I know for many years, I was pretty against marrying someone that had been divorced. I know that sounds really harsh. Please don't judge me. Go easy on me. I didn't know. I was a child. I was literally a child. I mean, your brain does not fully develop, according to what I understand, until about 26. So everybody that gets married before that point, and I'm not saying not to, like by all means, if you as you can live a guided life, being guided by the Spirit, and this having a if you have a beautiful feeling about something, that's the Spirit saying, "Hey, great choice." But if not, you're just trying too hard. So coming back to my point, like there's people out there that don't want to date somebody because they're divorced. Guys, go easy on them too. They really did. They did the best they knew how. You have no idea what thinking was going on in that person's mind at that time. You have no idea what they had been taught their entire lives. I mean, in my faith, where our culture kind of teaches us, not the church itself, but the culture kind of teaches you, hey, you got to get married by the time you're 22, 23. I mean, there was even a former religious leader of mine who's long since died, but he said if you weren't married by the time you were 25, you were actually a menace to society. I mean, talk about pressure, right? It's like, oh goodness, I'm 24. What's happening? I'm going to become a menace to society. No, no. I have had so many experiences similar to that. I remember a time I was sitting next to this girl and we were hanging out and I was super interested. And she asked the one question I didn't want her to ask. How old are you? And I said, I'm 25. I remembered nothing else about that conversation for years. I remember the dread I felt when she asked the question, but I do not remember what she had said. Up until I read in a journal probably about a year ago, and she said, oh, that's the perfect age. So the funny thing is, because I had so much scary thinking about everything that everyone else had told me, I missed a great opportunity. And I can't do anything about that. I wouldn't do anything about that. What's that thing? It's go easy on me. Go easy on yourself. Guys, honestly, when I first read that again, that she said, hey, 25 is the perfect age, and looking back, she was actually super interested. Oh my goodness, that hurt. That hurt so bad. But I was in such a different place in my life. I mean, now that's been like 12 years, 13 years almost. Gotta go easy on myself. Whatever decisions you made in the past, you were doing the best you knew how, or you wouldn't have done it. Even when people do crazy things, it makes sense in their head. You don't have to have all the answers. The times that I'm at my best are when I don't pretend that I have the answers. Go easy on me. Go easy on yourself. I need to go easier on myself. It was like yesterday, it was basically praying and asking the question of Heavenly Father, hey, what do you, help me plan? What do you want me to do? And I kid you not, about that moment, I got a text from somebody that said, hey, this part of your project's done. Just letting you know. Well, at that moment, that was the Spirit. And the other part I want to point out, because sometimes people can get really scared about this type of stuff. I know I do sometimes. You're thinking about something, you see somebody, and you instantly are filled with dread and fear or whatever. It's like, I think you guys know what I mean, but, for example, you're kind of in a low place, and all of a sudden you see somebody that you're not interested in. And then you start really freaking out. You're like, oh my goodness, is this God saying that this is the person? No. If you're having yucky feelings inside of you when you're thinking about a situation or a person or something, that's actually saying, hey, that's not what God means. This isn't the person for you. And so you don't have to spend much time thinking about that. because that can be easy to do. I mean, I've had I'm just one of those people that I've had plenty of experiences where I don't know, like I just my parents knew pretty quickly that they were going to end up together, and I kind of thought it would work the same way for me. But all the times I was fearful of like being on a date almost, and Heavenly Father saying, "Hey, Joseph, this is it." I'm like, "No, please, no, I don't want this." I mean, but once again, like I've never had that happen. I mean, the only time I've had him say, "Hey, this would be a good choice," is when it was something that I really wanted as well. What if you could stop trying to live a perfect life? Go easy on yourself. I just want to point out, because as I said, I did this podcast 4 times, and it was so labored. It was trying, it was thinking of whatever I could put in there. But when I start sensing that, that's the moment I actually should slow down. But instead, it's like, okay, what's the next piece of information I can put in here? You pause it and put in the information. But when it's truly flowing, that's how I know. So go easy on yourself, guys. I know some people out there are really frustrated because of you know, they, their job opportunities that they want aren't exactly there. And they feel that if they would have just started their career earlier in life, they'd be better. Guys, go easy on yourself. The funny thing is how many times people change careers anyways. It's like, even looking back, I knew since I was 18 that coaching would be some element of what I did. But I was so scared. I was hesitant. I had I had so much fearful thinking going through my head all the time that didn't allow me to go forward. And I listened to some of the wrong people at times. Go easy on yourself. Maybe you're in a bad relationship, or maybe you stayed in a bad relationship for far too long. I mean, I was engaged when I was 23, and I didn't ever have that beautiful feeling with her. It wasn't until the girl I sort of dated after her that I was like, "Oh, wow, this is what a relationship's like." But I didn't know, I didn't have experience. Sydney Banks has a quote that says, "Everybody is doing the best they can, given their thinking in the moment." Or maybe you could go easier on other people as well, and understand that they too are trying their best. I want you to think about something that you're struggling with right now. Something that you feel, "Oh my goodness, I should have done this so much better. I can't believe that I couldn't have figured this out earlier." And I want you to just ask the question, like, how could I be easier on myself in this area? How could I show myself more kindness? I love the quote, "Have courage and be kind," from Cinderella. Those are two of the things that I think could change the world. Having that kindness and having that courage. Have that kindness with yourself. You were spending so much more time thinking about all the things that you've done in the past and all the opportunities that you've quote unquote wasted, or that you think you've wasted. Get quiet. Get silent. And listen. Go do something that takes your mind off of things. Go do something that relaxes you. Go do something that helps you. Go do something fun. When you engage in life, it's a lot harder to sit and think about your past. Where do you need to be easier on yourself? Where do you need to show yourself more love, more compassion, and more kindness? I find it interesting that the times that I'm working the hardest to change my life are the times that I begin to have so much thinking come in my head. Why is that? Well, it's simply because the adversary doesn't want you to. In the same way he tries to kill baby Hercules in the Disney movie Hercules, because he knows if he rises up, he will conquer. As you let your past go, you are free. There was something really cool my mentor shared about this idea of, there's a movie that I've never seen, but one of the guys, he loses his memory every 12 hours. And Michael Neal talked about how that would actually not be a bad thing. I mean, if you could understand nothing but, could you imagine? This is how I'm seeing it. If you could be back to that childlike, innocent joy every 12 hours, or every 12 minutes, or every moment, just like when you were kids, and you could push the reset on the Nintendo as many times as you wanted to start over, you can push the reset on your day. You can push the reset on starting on, forgive the cliche, but this moment is the first moment of the rest of your life. If you didn't carry all that thinking with you of everything that you've done, and if you could go easy on yourself, and if you could just let the past go, you would be amazed at what you could accomplish. There's a part in my book I've struggled with a lot, probably because there's a lot of me in my book. Now, there's no names of other people that, would necessarily be recognizable, but there's a lot of me in that book. And one of the moments in the book is this character's he's got a happy life. He's finally got happiness with his family and himself. But, it's like he knows there's something a little bit off. And it finally just came to me last night of how to write this, of how to help this character have the realization that he needed to. And you know who it came through? It came through a random little child that just says stuff. It's like, hey, why aren't you doing what you want to do in your life? He doesn't say it like that. He says it like in a kid voice. I'm not going to look it up right now. But little kids can say whatever they want and get away with it. Hey, mister, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you want to be this? And it just starts to get him to think, and it starts this, it starts the snowball. Well, I had struggled with that particular portion of that book for a long time. It comes when it comes. Whatever it is that you're carrying around with you, Martin Seligman in his book, he calls it learned helplessness. I think sometimes we've tried so many times and we just feel we can't get up and try again. There's a quote from an inspirational talk. It's called Continue in Patience. It's by a man named Dieter Uchtdorf that is a religious leader of mine. And he says, there is an important concept here. Patience is not passive resignation. nor is it failing to act because of our fears. Patience means active waiting and enduring. It means staying with something and doing all that we can, working, hoping, and exercising faith, bearing hardship with fortitude, even when the desires of our hearts are delayed. Patience is not simply enduring, it is enduring well. The part in here I love is it says, patience is not resignation. I think for myself, certain things in my life that haven't happened yet, there has been some sort of resignation. There's just been, okay, that'll happen when it happens. And there's a balance between, going out and doing the things that we need to do and being guided and directed in that. There is a balance. There truly is. Once you receive guidance from the Spirit, act on it. Even act on the next tiny step. Because that's all you can do. Like, we get so in our heads about everything, guys. Everything. So once again, I don't know what it is that you're particularly struggling with, but go easy on yourself. Remember the lyrics of this song. Go easy on me, baby. I was still a child. I didn't get the chance to feel the world around me. I had no time to choose what I chose to do, so go easy on me. I had good intentions and the highest hopes, but I know right now that probably doesn't even show. Understand that even when you didn't do what you wanted to do, you had the best of intentions. You had the highest of hopes. Allow yourself to be joyful and grateful for the things that you've tried, even if you knew it was a bad decision. Allow yourself to be grateful that you got out of whatever decision it was. Go easy on yourself and go easy on those people around you because they too were trying their hardest, especially in this world that gets increasingly more chaotic and confusing. Everybody's a little bit on edge. Have a little bit more kindness, a little bit more peace, even with them. So I want to simply invite you today to be a little bit easier on yourself. If you spend a little bit too much time on social media, okay. In that moment, that felt like the right thing to do. Maybe you were scared about doing something else, or maybe you just really wanted to veg for a few moments. We think we know the right answers. As I mentioned right before I started this podcast, it was not coming. It was not coming. It was not coming. The right answer in that moment was to go and just eat a yogurt. But because I did that, my mind was quiet enough for God to talk to me and say, hey, this is what I want you to talk on. Anytime something comes so far out of left field that you're like, wait, what? Really? That? Oh, okay. It's at least worth checking in. If it leaves you feeling a beautiful, wonderful feeling, it's for you. If it leaves you a yucky feeling, it's not for you. I once was told that God can give you the worst news in the world, and you can feel total peace about it. So that peaceful, beautiful feeling is that confirmation to move forward. That yucky, scary feeling is that confirmation to stop. Stop before you actually do any more damage to yourself. Now, sometimes in that moment, we're like, no, I got to figure this out right now. No. In that moment, you got to stop. So once again, you are doing the best you know how given your thinking in this moment. Allow yourself just to get quiet and see what messages come up. And if you want a really cool experience, if you're a praying person, kneel down and pray to God. or whatever it is that you believe in, and ask him what he thinks of you. And that was something suggested to me by one of my mentors, Richard Paul Evans. And I had a life-changing experience in that moment. Ask God what he thinks about you and what he thinks about what you're up to, and you're going to experience some beautiful, beautiful feelings. Now, if you've made it to this point in the podcast, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. I don't know how you got here, but that way, if you ever want to get back here again, it's right there for you in your subscriptions. And if you haven't already joined us, one of the really cool things that I do that's free for anyone that would like to participate is each Monday morning at 10 a.m. Arizona time, I host a group coaching call for Happy and Single. Anyone is welcome to come on, and you can even receive a little bit of one-on-one coaching time with me, depending on how many people are in the call. Now, every now and then that schedule changes, so you can go to the website happynsingle.com to be able to look at the schedule and also to be able to find the link to the Zoom room. Now, at the same time, if you would prefer a more one-on-one type of coaching experience where you can sit down and share your hopes and dreams and just kind of the stuff going on in your world, then there's another option available for you as well. Now, the bulk of my business is actually doing one-on-one coaching. If that's something you're interested in exploring, I've got a few spots open in my coaching practice. You can just message me on Instagram at the It's Possible Guy, and we can sit down and have a chat. And it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. I've worked with people across the world. I do everything over Zoom, so it actually makes it pretty easy. Thank you guys so much again for listening. And go out and live your adventure. Thank you.